I was just saying to my buddy Luke on Patreon that the D200 video that I just released last week was sort of a big deal to me. But now that it's over, it's hard to just get back to business as usual. And I am shooting another camera and enjoying it, and I've collected lots of footage and having fun. But do I want to sit down and talk about another camera so quickly? No, I don't. But I struggle to allow myself to take a break. Which is ridiculous, because all the reasons someone who does something like this on some social media platform would normally not want to take a break, like fear of being punished by the algorithm, or I don't know, not getting attention. None of those things apply to me. I don't care. I don't like attention to begin with. And whether or not the algorithm blesses me with its favor has absolutely no bearing on my doing this or my quitting at some point, which is probably inevitable, but I'm hoping it's far in the future. As I've said a million times, as long as this is fun, I'll keep doing it. I mean, it doesn't have to be consistently fun, non-stop, every aspect of it, but as long as it adds value to my life. And it still is. And I hope that's the case for years to come. But as soon as it's not on a regular basis, I will walk away immediately. Of course I will. So then why is it so hard to take a break? In my case, I think it's a fear that I won't start back up again. I'll like the break too much, and the rest of my life will just become a long, extended break. And actually, there's a completely opposite and contradictory way of looking at it, which is somehow also true. That doesn't really make sense, but it really is also true. That a couple of days go by and I haven't created anything, I get so frustrated. And I just go down this mental downward spiral. And each day that goes by and I'm not out there creating, I just get really depressed and really frustrated with myself and everything else and everyone else. Anxiety starts to become more and more of a problem. It becomes more and more difficult to overcome that anxiety and get back out there. And yet I get more and more frustrated at myself for not getting out there. And it's just like a feedback loop where the anxiety fuels the inaction and the inaction fuels the anxiety. Do you ever feel like everything you do is diluted? You're just spread too thin? I certainly do. I have too many interests. And I like creating too many different kinds of things. And wouldn't it be nice to see what you could accomplish if you just sort of focused on something? And I think of that when I think of quitting this or taking some extended break, or even a small break that could potentially become an extended break. And yes, I think of the fallacy of sunk costs. But am I engaged in that if I feel compelled to stick with something, to see what comes of it, to see how far I can go? I don't mean far like subscribers. I mean far like feeling good about myself. Success would be like, I made a video I was really proud of. I have not yet managed to do that. However, I've made a few that I really enjoyed making, and I'll take that. If I can't make something I'm proud of, just give me some great memories, some warm, fuzzy feelings, and I'm good. Yeah, that probably is the fallacy, isn't it? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm engaged in the sunk cost fallacy. That sucks. By the way, the sunk cost fallacy is when you continue doing something you shouldn't due to a past investment of time or money or whatever. But maybe that doesn't apply, because it's not clear that it's somehow irrational for me to continue. There's positive, there's negative, but I really do feel it's a net positive for me. I get more out of it than I put in. And momentum is difficult to achieve. Whatever else can be said, that's my main fear. It's hard enough just to get started at anything, and then many, many steps down the road from getting started, you've overcome all the problems, you've established some kind of machinery to keep a thing going. shut that down, and it's really hard to get it back, which if I decide to keep going after shutting down all the machinery, it's going to be even more work than just continuing on. So I think that's reasonable. Anyway, I love flying my drone. So therefore I'm really happy I own one again. It's been a while, but I love it. This is my break right here. Plunking my butt down on the ground, flying my drone. Just love it. This is one of my real-time drone flights. No photos taken. I mean, granted, a shit ton of video, but no photos. So here I lost signal between the controller and the drone right there. But I wondered what happens. This drone does not have the obstacle sensing that my old drone had, so its return to home is a lot more limited. I wondered what it would do.
Fuck. Oh, shit. Okay.
Caused me to soil myself. That's what it does. Here's what happened from the drone's perspective. So I lost control. It stopped. It looks like it turned to retrace the path I had taken. Very smart. I like that. What I don't like so much is that it gave up almost immediately, turned back and started ascending. And the reason I'm not thrilled with that, like, yes, I know I'm not supposed to be flying over 400 feet, but the thing is I'm not, despite what the controller will tell you. Because I launched from way lower than the ground underneath the drone. If I were flying in a way that my controller would report 400 feet, I would have to be flying inside the mountain. As you're going up a mountain, of course, you have to increase your altitude. There is no law about the altitude you're allowed to fly in relation to where you launched, only in relation to the ground underneath you. I mean, underneath the drone, not you. There are no laws about the elevation of the ground underneath you that I'm aware of. But the drone should try to retrace the path first. And the reason is that the drone or the controller or whatever, the software, the firmware, whatever it is, has a hard limit. You cannot just keep ascending forever. So if I were to hit that hard limit, which is only a few hundred feet away, that is, if the drone were to hit that hard limit, trying to do a return to home, or trying to rise to reestablish connection, then what it seems like it would do is it would rise until it hits that limit, it would not reestablish a connection, and it would just hover there until it runs out of battery, and then do a forced landing, and then I'll never see it again. When instead it could just retrace the route it took, which will inevitably lead it to reestablishing connection with me. I think that sucks. I think that's really dumb, or if not dumb, intentionally designed to separate you from your drone. I don't think that's what's actually going on here. It's just a terrible idea. That's my point. Bad idea. I understand it doesn't have great obstacle sensing, but what are the chances some obstacles got in the way between its flight there 30 seconds ago and its flight out now? If that were to happen, I mean, I would have a very limited amount of time because the battery life is short on this thing. But I could, one, try to lift the controller higher, maybe bring some poles or something. The problem is that I couldn't control it. Like, if I lifted it high enough to reestablish connection, great, but my hand is certainly not long enough to interact with the drone. Plan B, I could try to get farther away from the mountain or the peak or whatever that it's behind. If you imagine like drawing a two-dimensional picture and I'm on the bottom and it's on the top and there's a thing blocking us, and draw a straight line, the more I get away from the mountain, the more it has a chance to see me. Or I could try to get to the left or the right. And actually that would probably be very doable in this particular situation, but I could certainly conceive of situations where that would not be doable. So, with whatever limited amount of time I would have to act, I would probably run like I would try to retrace the path. I would run to the right. Even though technically the right would be lower ground. It would be a way to clear the peak more quickly than just going after higher ground. It would just depend on the situation, but it's good to have that in mind so that you know how you're going to handle the situation if it comes up, because you will have a very limited amount of time because of the drone battery life not being very long to begin with. But this particular drone has very short battery life, even when compared to other drones, certainly when compared to my old drone. So I have 2 batteries, and I'm just going to show the 2 flights I did. Took me about 30 minutes total, but I'll cut down 8 or 10 minutes, like traveling back, because that's kind of boring. Maybe it's all boring. And if that's the case, you're not hearing me say this because you would have bailed a long time ago. It looks like I have a breathing apparatus in my mouth in the reflection there. So heading back, my goal is always to drop the altitude so that I'm not breaking any laws, but not drop it so quickly that the thing just falls out of the sky. You don't want to lose control of it and risk it falling on someone's head. Also, the elevation is so weird, and turning your back on the part of the terrain with the high elevation, I find that scary. I want to bring it down gradually. That feels safest to me. So that's what I do. Also, I'm not really 850 feet above ground here. I'm probably 300 to 400 feet, because it's not just the mountains. All of the ground is slanted here. There is no flat ground. So it may seem like I'm not following drone laws, but that is false. I absolutely am, to the best of my ability. There's a lot of guesswork involved, and I am guessing about the height, the elevation above ground as best I can. Sorry, altitude. I keep saying elevation, when what I mean instead is altitude. Altitude. Not elevation. But people have to take breaks. They just have to, or their work will suffer. So why is it we don't allow ourselves to take breaks? The hell is wrong with us? It's self-defeating. Okay, so maybe just be smart about it. Here I am, here's a video. No machinery has been shut down. Momentum is being maintained. If this were a TV show, this would be a bottle episode. But instead of trying to save money, I'm trying to save time. And my sanity, most of all. And I like bottle episodes, so why not? Also, I'm essentially just using it as an excuse to do something I love in the first place. I've been getting up every morning, going out, flying my drone, and just loving it, honestly. Can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. This, by the way, is a wonderful hobby for anyone who likes photography, videography, being outdoors, exploring, adventure. Someone stuck in a place that feels too familiar to be interesting. This is your chance to see it in a brand new way, from a brand new perspective. And if you have mobility issues, my goodness, what an awesome way to kind of overcome that to some degree. I mean, for me, it feels freeing. Like I'm suddenly mobile, and that's not something I really struggle with in particular. And although younger me would find this statement baffling, I do not really like technology today. I do not find it fun in the slightest. But there are a few exceptions, and drones are one of the very few exceptions. I love it. It's really cool. I see it as one of the few perks of living in this time. It's less difficult, less expensive than you might think. It certainly can be expensive, insanely expensive, but I think the point is it's a pretty mature technology, and there are a lot of budget-friendly options, like the DJI Flip I purchased recently. However, there are some options that are even more budget-friendly than this. All in, this setup I'm flying here was around $500 USD. I could have chosen a cheaper controller, could have chosen a cheaper drone. I considered a setup that was about half of that, and it nearly ticked all the boxes for me. Nearly, but not quite. I bought and returned a drone that cost about $375 that didn't quite work for me. But I had specific wants or needs out of this thing. Also an understanding about what I could live without, because it's not my first drone. Although an experienced drone pilot would probably see the DJI Flip as a beginner model. But for me, $500 was more than I wanted to pay, but I'm so pleased with what I got for that money that I have absolutely no regrets. My old drone was a lot more expensive. I flew it for over a year and then sold it for nearly what I paid for it. Not quite, but within a few $100 US. So basically, I rented it for a full year, flew it as much as I wanted, for a couple of $100. You can't really beat that. And if I feel I've outgrown this drone at some point, I could always just do the same again. So this is my little break, my mini vacation. And I must thank my Patreon members, current and past supporters. You are amazing. This was largely funded by Patreon, and you gave me a great gift. I've really missed having a drone. It's just the coolest. And these massive shifts in exposure, I'm just brightening up the image so that I can see. Because on the controller, with a properly exposed image when I'm flying into the sun, all I'm seeing are dark blobs, especially because I'm in the sun. So I changed the exposure just to get a look around. I don't want to just fly straight toward the dark blobs unless I make absolutely sure I'm not going to run into anything first. And I am shooting this, and have been shooting most of my drone stuff, at 24 frames per second, because I just prefer that. I mean, aesthetically, I like the look of 24 frames per second. However, I think I have decided that this will be the last time I fly or shoot at 24 frames per second from the drone. I think it makes a lot more sense to shoot at a higher frame rate. Specifically, I'm going to go with 60. And then when I use that footage in a 24 frame per second timeline, I'm just going to slow it down to whatever that would be, 40%, I think. I use no ND filter, so 24 frames per second can get a little jerky, although it usually doesn't. It usually looks fine. But there are rare exceptions where it kind of doesn't look that great. I don't love how the farther peaks and the closer peaks are almost overlapping here. I attribute that to two things. One, I was just afraid to bring the drone up any higher. It's just so high. I mean, it's really not that high above the ground, but that number is so high, and it freaks me out. So I did bring it up a little higher, and I don't love doing that, and it really didn't even help all that much. The other thing is it's just hard for me to perceive that the peaks are so close together sometimes on the controller, especially if I am in the sun. Anyway, it would have been a better shot had I got up a little higher, but I didn't. I just didn't want to push it anymore. Take a break to gain a fresh perspective. It's so easy to get trapped into a particular way of thinking, and a break is the best way to get unstuck, and the best way to generate entirely new ideas. I speak from experience, the experience of being indefinitely stuck and generating zero new ideas. It's tough though, because while I'm here trying to push this idea that breaks are wonderful and the solution to every problem, I also know that I'm kind of lying to you. Because grinding away at a problem nonstop really can lead to results, unfortunately. I guess what I'm saying though is, at what cost? A lot of life, a lot of every individual life is going to be wasted, sure. That is just how that goes, sadly, but I'm hoping to minimize that, in the case of me, as best I can. And making stuff for the internet to consume is potentially a gigantic waste of life. It is, unless I make sure that it's not. I need to make sure that I get something out of it. And I need to make sure that if I need to walk away for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, that I do just that. And here's my not-so-secret secret. I don't make videos for the algorithm, but I also don't make videos for an audience. Sorry. I make them for me. I think that sometimes helps them to be received well by an audience. Sometimes it definitely hinders their reception. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is like the one thing in life that I don't overthink. I'm incapable of making stuff any other way, or for any other purpose, or from any other perspective. Or at least I'm uninterested. I am one selfish SOB with my art. It's always about me. So in reality, I don't just get something out of making these videos, I get everything out of making them. And in that way, it's not a waste. But also, I stand by fully willing to move on to something else that is more fulfilling to me should that thing come along. And normal life stuff, just enjoying time alone, enjoying time with my family, that is far more important to me than any form of art. And probably 10 years ago I could not have claimed that. Maybe not even 5. But I feel like I've grown there, that I perceive things differently to my benefit. But you gotta take breaks, man. You really do. I suck at it. I think a lot of people suck at that. Gotta give yourself time, gotta recharge. Hypothetically, maybe you can make a video about the Fuji S3 Pro, followed immediately by the Nikon D100, followed immediately by the Nikon D200. But hey, maybe before you finish that Canon 10D video and that Olympus OMG video, maybe you give yourself a minute. Even stuff you love can start to feel like torture. If you have no time to recover, think about something else for a while. So bringing the drone back in now. That concludes my second flight. I get I don't know, between 10 and maybe 15 minutes. I don't know that I ever actually get 15 minutes per flight. Oh, actually I'm over 15 minutes. But I don't plan to do a lot of drone stuff on my photography channel. I recognize that it's not on topic. But I'll release videos like this on Patreon here and there. I might consider doing a drone channel at some point, but I doubt it. Mostly I just plan to enjoy myself, selfishly.